It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this course on inferential discrete mathematics, the second semester of the BCA online learning program. The previous two lectures we had a formal introduction into logic. We understood the true and false nature of statements. We had a look at examples on how to construct a truth table for a given compound statement. We classified statements into tautologies and contradictions. We also had a look at connecting one or more statements as three different connectives, one as a disjunction, as a conjunction, and also as a conditional. Later we also had a look at how to use a biconditional to combine two simple statements. In the last class we saw how to show that two compound statements can be demonstrated to be equivalent using the idea of a truth table. We also had a look at properties which said how a conditional can also be expressed as a disjunction and a conjunction, and how different biconditional statements can also be expressed in simpler propositions. We also had a look at the fundamental properties involving the conjunction disjunction operations. We had a look at a few properties, like a few simple properties like the identity law, the commutative law, the idempotent law, the associative law, and also a few advanced properties like the De Morgan's law, the absorption law, the distributive law, etc. Today we will have a look at two concepts, one on the dual of a given statement, and two, the normal form of a given compound proposition. Why do we need these two? We will look at today's class. Yes, the first of the two topics that we will discuss in today's class is about the dual of a given statement. Let's take any compound statement. We will first learn how to determine its dual. On your screens you have the definition which tells you how to find the dual of any compound statement. The definition goes as follows. If you have a compound statement A which is expressed only in terms of either the operator tilde or the connectives, the conjunction or the disjunction, then its dual, namely tilde A, is obtained by doing each of these four simple operations. Number one, you will replace every conjunction by a disjunction, and vice versa. You will replace every disjunction by a conjunction. And if there are absolutely true statements symbolized by T and absolutely false statements symbolized by F, you will flip them around. Every T becomes an F, every F becomes a T. Once you perform all of these four simple operations on the given A, you have its tilde A. That's the dual. Now one word of caution here is we never flip the statements as they are. So if you have a statement P as a part of your statement A, the compound statement A, you will not replace it by tilde P. That's wrong. We don't do that. As the definition tells you, you only flip the connectives which are either disjunctions or conjunctions, and you will flip completely true statements or completely false statements. You will never mess around with the actual statements that are given. So a conjunction becomes a disjunction, vice versa. A true statement becomes a false statement, and a false statement becomes a true statement. Completely true statement becomes a false, and vice versa. We'll have a look at a couple of examples to get comfortable with the idea. The very first statement that you have is a compound statement involving two statements, two simple statements P and negation Q. They are combined using a connective which is the disjunction. We are trying to find its dual. As we saw in the previous slide, finding the dual is as simple as just flipping the connectives. So if this is what you refer to as A, its dual tilde A will be this. I retain the two simple statements in their original versions and I flip only the connective. The disjunction becomes a conjunction. That's all. That's it. That is the dual of the given statement. Next up, we have a compound statement involving P, Q and R. Three simple statements P, Q and R and one absolutely true statements that is always true. Now we are asked to find its dual. And you can see that this has only the connectives, conjunctions and disjunctions involved. There is not even the negation operator being used. So this is supposed to be easy. So we will write down the statements as they are, the simple statement as they are, and let's flip the connectives. Include the brackets and replace the T by an F, close the brackets. So if I call the given statement as B, its dual will just look like this. P, Q and R remain as they are. Every conjunction becomes a disjunction, vice versa. That completes the dual of B. The next example once again involves only two statements P, Q. You have P, you have Q, you also have negation Q. So if I call this as statement C, now its dual P, negation Q and Q remain as they are. I don't even disturb the brackets. The false, the absolutely false becomes true. The conjunction becomes a disjunction. The disjunction becomes a conjunction. The conjunction becomes a disjunction again. So this will be the dual of C. Remember once again, I do not flip the nature of the statements, the individual statements. I only flip the connectives that are present to combine them. And if I have a totally true or a totally false statement, I flip that also. I don't flip the individual variables. Let's give you one more shot at three more statements. Have a look at these three. The first of them is too straightforward. You have P, Q and R. So P, negation Q, negation R, I give them as they are and flip the connective. The next one I have four of them, P, Q, R and S. I don't disturb their individual natures, I flip only the connectives involved. In fact, the last one must be a conjunction. You're right. In the next part, only two P and Q are involved, but you have an absolutely false and an absolutely true statement. So we'll write down the simple statements in their original forms and flip all of that is remaining. False becomes true, true becomes false, and the connectives are also swapped. So this is how you construct a dual of a compound statement. But why do we need compound statements? Why do we need dual of compound statements? We'll get to that shortly. Before that, I wanted to discuss this idea on functionally complete sets. Now we've had a look at a lot of connectives so far. We've had a look at the conjunction, the disjunction, the operation called the negation, the conditional and the biconditional so far. Now, can we minimize this number? We have had 5 separate operations acting on one or more statements. Can we reduce this number? It turns out that we can actually reduce. So a functionally complete set is the minimum possible number of connectives and operations that can be included to express any compound proposition only using these 3. And that's what the definition on your screen tells you. Out of the possible connectives and operators acting on a given statement or a set of statements, we see that only these 3 are sufficient. Which 3? The conjunction, the disjunction and the negation. These 3 are sufficient to express any given compound statement involving any combination of connectives given by these 5. And therefore, these 3 together will form a functionally complete set. And if you paid attention to the previous class, you will know that this is right. Because in the last class, we saw that a conditional can always be expressed either using a conjunction or using a disjunction. We saw that. And any biconditional can also be expressed as a conditional. So the connectives involving the conditional and the biconditional are okay, but you don't have to cling on to them. They are not critically necessary to define or redefine any compound statement. You will require only these 3: the conjunction, the disjunction, and the negation. These 3 are critically important for redefining a compound proposition. You have these 3, then you can do whatever you wish. You can rewrite any given formula based only on these 3. And we have an example for that. On the top left corner of the screen, you can see that how I have rewritten a conditional only using a disjunction. We saw this last class. And in the bottom left, you also see that I negate a conditional and I still write that only using a conjunction. So I don't have to entirely rely on the symbol called as a conditional. If I have the disjunction and the conjunction along with the tilde, that's enough for me to rewrite any formula. The same is what you see on the right. A biconditional statement is expressed using conditionals, and you've already seen how a conditional can be expressed as a disjunction. So you can write any compound statement involving either a biconditional or a conditional only using these 3, and hence the set of these 3 operators and connectives is what we call as a functionally complete set. You don't need anything else. Everything else can be expressed only in terms of these 3, but you need all 3. You cannot do away with any 2 of them or any 1 of them. You need all of them to express every other formula. That's why you call them as functionally complete sets. But why is this necessary? Because what we'll see next is something connected to this. We will have a look at what is called as the principal disjunctive normal form of a given statement. What does it mean, or why do you need it? You see that on your screen. A principal disjunctive normal form, a possible acronym is just PDNF, of a compound statement is an equivalent way of expressing the statement only using these 3 operators such that the statement is a sum of products involving all the constituent statements P, Q, and R. Sum of products. What do you mean by sum of products? We'll need to express it in this form. So this is a conjunction of these 3, or a conjunction of these 3, or a conjunction of these 3. In whatever manner you pick them, they're always forming a conjunction of all 3 statements which are either in their actual form or in their negated form. Such an expression is what you call as a PDNF. It's a sum of all these products. Here, the easy way of understanding is connecting a sum with a disjunction and a product with a conjunction. So when I say that the required form is a sum of products form, I want every term to be a conjunction and I want a disjunction between them. That is what you refer to as the PDNF, or the principal normal form. You call it disjunctive because you are adding up products. You're calling them principal because every term should have a product of certain terms where the statements are included as themselves or as their complements. We'll have a look at an example. What happens here is I've tried to express the biconditional in its principal disjunctive normal form. Now the biconditional is a compound statement. You're combining P and Q using the biconditional. Now, can you express the same biconditional as a PDNF in its PDNF expression form? Now remember, a PDNF is a sum of products, which means you're doing a disjunction of some terms where each term is a product, and not just any product. It involves all statements involved in the formula, either in their natural form or in their negated form. Now it happens here. Look at this. I'm doing a biconditional between P and Q, one statement called P and the other called Q, and I'm doing a biconditional between the two, and now I've shown that it is equivalent to this, where we have a disjunction of two terms. Disjunction, that's why you call it as a DNF. It's a disjunction of two terms, and what are those two terms? They are in turn conjunctions. And the conjunctions of what? The conjunctions of all the variables involved in the compound formula, either in their actual form or in their negated form. So this problem talks only about P and Q. So every conjunction that I talk about should have a conjunction of P and Q, where either P is in it as itself or is in it in terms of its negated version. So what you see here is I have both P and Q in their actual forms, and they are in a conjunction. They are combined using the conjunction operator. Similarly, the second term involved is negated P and negated Q. So both P and Q are in their negated versions of themselves, and I am doing a conjunction between the two, which means I am combining them using the connective of a conjunction, and both these are together in disjunction with each other, and therefore it is a sum of products form. This is a sum of products form of the given compound statement. But finding this is not always easy, because for this statement this works easily because you know how a biconditional works. A biconditional takes a true value only when both are true together or both are false together. Now in the first bracket you see that both of them are true together if you take P and Q to represent the true sense, or both can also be false together. That is also permitted under biconditional. Recall that a biconditional will have its truth table like this: TF, FT, TT, FF. If these are P and Qs, then a biconditional will be like this. It takes up a true value only when both are true together. You have it. This represents the third row, and this represents the fourth row, and that's how you have it. So what you see on screen is a possible principal disjunctive form of the given formula, which is a biconditional. But how do you get this answer? Now, verifying is one thing. I give you the answer and you verify it. If both sides match, it's fine. If both sides don't match, then it's not right. That's okay. But what if I don't give you? How do you find it? Only for this purpose, we have something called as a procedure. Now on your screen, I've explained the actual procedure behind finding this PDNF. Let's go through that. Okay, the idea is to construct or determine the PDNF of any compound statement that you have. And how do you do it? There are 5 simple steps. Step 1, we construct the truth table. Now all of you must have got pretty comfortable with constructing truth tables. That's the first step. Now provided the given statement is not a contradiction. What do we mean by a contradiction? A statement which gives out only false value as its output. Now assuming that the formula that you have taken up is not a contradiction, your step 2 says you will identify those rows of the table which have t, the true, as its truth value. We'll identify those rows first. So you know that if your compound statement has n variables, then your truth table will have 2 power n rows. You're supposed to examine each row and the output corresponding to each row. And we'll select only those rows which correspond to a true value. Now once you've done that, we'll advance to step 3, and step 3 says we express the sequence corresponding to the identified row as a product of the variables, because you're looking for a PDNF which is a sum of products, and that product is what is referred to here. And step 3 is repeated for every row which gives a true value out. Every row that gives a true value, you repeat step 3. And once you're done with all of them, we express all such rows getting the PDNF of A by expressing them in the sum of products form. That's how we do it. I can give you a small example by going back to the previous slide. That's what you had, and we're looking for expressing the LHS in its PDNF form. We don't know what the form is yet. We sure it is something, but we do not know. But how do you determine that? We'll follow this procedure in the next slide. So what are we supposed to do? We'll construct the truth table. The truth table is not very difficult. We'll construct the truth table. Since it involves only 2 variables, you will have only 4 rows in all. That's not very difficult, is it? It's not very difficult. So let's evaluate the formula. You know that the formula takes up true value only in the last 2 columns. Okay, so what did step 2 want you to do? Step 2 wanted you to identify those rows which gave you the true answer. It's only the last 2 rows. And what's next? Express the sequence corresponding to the identified row as a product of the variables. So let's go back to the table. We know that the rows 3 and 4 gave us a true value. Now express those 2 rows as a product. How what's a product? I told you that the product is akin to the conjunction. So when you want to express the third row as a product, you do it as a conjunction between whatever gave you the answer. The answer came from true and true, which means P and Q can be taken as they are. And the second row that gave you a true answer was the last row. Last row talks about 2 false answers, which means P is negated and so is Q. You have the second product before you. So the first term is a product between P and Q. The second term is a product between negative P and negative Q. And since you are doing a disjunctive normal form, you will do a disjunction between these 2 products. And that is exactly what we had in the question. So this is how you find the PDNF of any given compound statement. You construct the truth table, look at those rows which give a true answer, convert the corresponding row input sequence into a product, because you're doing a sum of products. This is the sum of 2 products. That tells you what the sum of products expansion is. Let's do a couple of more problems for your practice. Okay, have a look at this. What we have is P conjunction and a condition. You have both a conditional and a conjunction. But the bright side is it involves only 2 variables P and Q. There's no R, so the table is a lot smaller in size. It will have only 4 rows, and that's not much trouble for us. And those 4 rows, all of you must have got comfortable with this so far. You can write down all 4 rows easily. Let's look at the conditional. You know how a conditional works? A conditional works to be a true answer in 3 cases and a false answer in only exactly 1 case, where the hypothesis is true but the consequence is false, and that happens in the very first row. All other rows take up a true value. That's your third column right there. The fourth column wants you to do a conjunction between columns 1 and columns 3. Column 1 and 3. You're supposed to do a conjunction. The conjunction takes a true value only in one of the 4 cases. Only when both are true only in the third row, and only that is true. Everywhere else you find at least one false value and all of them vanish, go to a false value. Now that you have constructed the truth table, your task is cut out. You can find out what is it equivalent to, or what is the PDNF is. And how do we do this? We check the output and highlight those rows which give us a true value. The true value is obtained in exactly one row, which is the third one. So the corresponding input sequence is converted to a product of the variables. Now, since both are true values, the product that you're thinking of is just P conjunction Q. There's nothing else to pair it up with, so this is all its PDNF. PDNF is just P and Q together in a conjunction. They're combined using a conjunction. All the others are false, so you don't consider their input sequences to construct the PDNF. And also, by constructing the truth table, you're verifying that the given statement is not a contradiction. You can recall that's one of the first things that you will do. You will verify if the given formula is actually a contradiction, because if it's a contradiction, every value in the output sequence will be false. There's nothing to highlight, and hence the PDNF will not exist. The PDNF will exist only when at least one of the input sequences returns a true value. If none of them returns, there is no PDNF possible. Now here, once you draw the truth table, you will see that there is at least one term which gives a truth value, and that takes part in the PDNF. Okay, similar, but the difference is you don't have a conditional this time. So what? It makes the job still easier because you got only 2 variables, and that's 4 rows in the truth table. So you have a P, you have a Q, you have a negation Q. That's all right. Your disjunction between P and negation Q, and then you have a conjunction between rows 2 and 4. So let's write that down. Only 4 possible input sequences: TF, FT, TT, and FF. And column 3 wants you to flip column 2, that is true, false, true, false, false, true. Alright. Now what are we doing? We are doing a disjunction between columns 1 and 3, and you know how a disjunction works. A false value is written only when all of them are false, and all of them are false in only one occasion, the second row, so that you have a false value only there. Everywhere else there is at least one true value, and hence all of the remaining rows are populated with true values. Now what is required? You are to do a conjunction between columns 2 and 4. The conjunction is simple. You return a true value only when they are true all the time. It's a conjunction. And now you see that when you compare columns 2 and 4, they are never true together. False and true, true and false, true and true. Yeah, you have one true value. That's all right. That gives me some solace. Only the third row has a true value, a double true value. In everywhere else you have find at least one false value, so none of them return a true value except for the third row. And you know that to construct a PDNF, you will have a look at those rows which return a true value, and that is happening only in row number 3. So you'll have only one term in the PDNF, and that's the conjunction of these two, P and Q. Once again, similar to the previous one, the PDNF is just P and Q in their original forms. It won't be so easy all the time. We'll have something different here. What's here? You have 3 variables. You have a P, you have a Q, you also have an R. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Column 8, conjunction, column 9. Let's write this down quick and fast. Let's do the conjunction between columns 1 and 3 now. Two of them are true. Let's flip P. And let's do a disjunction between columns 3 and 5 now. Okay, let's do a conjunction between columns 2 and 6. Three of them are true. Let's negate whatever we did so far. Three, 6 and 8. Now what remains is a disjunction between columns 2 and 4. Disjunction. And now a conjunction between the last two columns. That's true, false, false, true. True and true is true, false and true is false, false and true is false, true and false is false, true and false is false, false and true is false, false and true is true, and last is false. Now look at the last column. There are only two answers which are true. Only two of them which are true. So this is not a contradiction, since there is at least one true answer. So you'll have to correspondingly write their terms. Now what are the terms? The first row is the first answer that is true, and the first answer is TFT. So TFT corresponds to a TFT will correspond to a P product, a negation Q product, an R. And the seventh row is a TTF. A TTF will correspond to a P conjunction Q conjunction negation R. And the PDNF is the sum of these two. So we'll have a P negation Q negation R disjunction with P, Q and negation R. So that is how you will have its PDNF. Now look at the last answer. It is easy to identify. Each term is a conjunction and they are added between. There is a disjunction, these two. What we'll look at next is the principal conjunctive normal form. It's the opposite of the same, except that it is in terms of a conjunction. Now one example that you can see on your screens is this. The principal conjunctive normal form of any compound statement is an equivalent way of expressing the statement only by using the operators such that the expression is a product of sums. You have flipped them, involving all constituent elements in their actual form or the negated form. An example of that is on your screens. A biconditional statement can have its conjunctive normal form in this. What is special about the RHS? You see that it is a sum, and you have a product. It's a product of sums. So the conjunctive normal form is a product of one or more terms where each term is a sum in itself. So this thing is easy because that's how a biconditional works. But how do you write down a general procedure? This is how you write down a general procedure. We construct the truth table as in the PDNF. Provided the given statement is a tautology or it's not a tautology, we'll identify those rows which give f as a truth value. We find those rows which give the truth value and write it as a product of these terms. Repeat the above for every false value that you identify in the truth table, and this is actually the PDNF, but not the PDNF of the given statement, it's the PDNF of the dual. So what you get from identifying all rows which give a false value is the PDNF of the dual. Now when you find the dual of this, you will get the required PCNF. We'll have a look at it using this example. Look at it. You have P and Q in a biconditional. So the answers are easy. TF, FT, TT, FF. Biconditional, you know how a biconditional works. You will identify only the times where they are similar. They are similar in the last two rows, not similar in the first two rows. So the first two rows are false, the last two rows are true. This is not a tautology because not all of the outputs are true values. Now what did the procedure want you to do? It wanted to write down those rows which give you a false value. The false value is in the first two rows. So the corresponding min terms are P and negation Q, Q and negation P. And if you write them in the DNF form, the PDNF of the dual, suppose you call this as A of the dual, will be P and negation Q, disjunction Q and negation P. How do you find the required PCNF? PCNF of A is just the same, but you will just do the dual of it. How do you do the dual? We have already discussed this. P disjunction Q, P disjunction negation Q, and the conjunction is flipped, Q disjunction negation P. Or in other words, this is negation P disjunction Q in conjunction with P disjunction negation Q. That's what you had in the question. So that is the required conjunctive normal form of the given A. So it's just one extra procedure. Till drawing the truth table it's the same, but you identify those rows which give you false values. You construct a PDNF out of that. I know we are actually discussing the PCNF, but when you construct the PDNF out of that, the answer that you get is not that of A, but it's dual. So you find the dual of the dual, you get it back. So you do the dual of the PDNF, you get the PCNF of the actual statement, and that's what is given. So let's discuss this using a couple of examples. Let's have a look at this. This statement is a conditional, but to make it easy for you, I've just picked two simple statements. So P, Q, P disjunction Q, P conjunction Q, and a conditional. So let's finish writing the truth table, the 4 rows that you need. True, 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 false, 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 true, and false. Now a conditional from column 3 to column 4. Column 3 to column 4, it's a false value to start with and a true value in the last two. We're trying to find the PCNF, so you'll identify those rows which give you a false value, and they are the first two. The first two rows, so the PDNF of the dual of the given statement. Suppose I call the statement as A, so its dual will be tilde A, and how do you write the dual's PDNF? It's this way. That's what you have. That's the PDNF. It's a sum of two products. That's not the answer. We are in fact after finding the conjunctive normal form. So how do you do this? By the procedure, you will just flip this. The PCNF of A is just obtained by doing the dual. How do you do the dual? Conjunction becomes a disjunction, disjunction becomes a conjunction, conjunction becomes a disjunction again. You do nothing about the remaining, just write them as they are. That's it. So now it is a product of two sums. This is your PCNF. So once you construct your truth table correctly and identify the correct rows, the rest is too simple. Okay. This example once again, there are only two statements P and Q. So P, Q, we have a conditional Q to P, we have a conjunction and one more conditional. Fortunately, only two statements and hence only 4 rows, so it's easier for you to construct and follow. So Q to P, it takes a false value only once. When Q is true and P is false, that happens in the second row, the remaining are true. And now you are doing a conjunction combining the first and the third columns, a double true, a double false, a double true, and a single false. And now it's a conditional from 1 to 4. Look at it, from 1 to 4. It's from 1 to 4. And a conditional will take up a false value only when you have a false value to start with. Q to P is out there, the conjunction is out there, the conditional is the last part. The conditional is defined in this manner. Yes. And now you see that when you construct the conditional, there is not a single case where the hypothesis is true but the consequence is false. The hypothesis is true in 2 cases, and in each of the cases the consequence is also false. It's also true. So in these cases you have true everywhere, which means the given compound statement is actually a tautology. It's a tautology. All of the entries in the output column are true. And now if you can recall, when I described the procedure, I told you that provided the given compound statement is a tautology, it's not a tautology, this procedure works. But if it is a tautology, as in this case, this doesn't have a PDNF, a PCNF does not exist. because none of the rows give you a false value, so you cannot find the corresponding duals PDNF, so the PCNF doesn't exist. And for the last example of today's class, let's consider this. Another compound formula involving three statements P, Q and R. You have a P, you have a Q, you have a P and Q, you have a P and Q and R, and you also have another conjunction. So let's write down. You'll have 8 rows here. Let's write all 8 of them. Okay. We're doing a conjunction within the first 2 rows. False, false, true, false, 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 true, false. And once again we're doing it with the third row, doing a conjunction between the third and the fourth rows. False, false, true, false, 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 false. Only one of them turns out to be true and the rest false. And now a disjunction between the fourth column and the fifth column. Look at the fourth column and the fifth column, it's a disjunction. Double false is false, double false is false again, double true is true, false, 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 true and false. So you exactly have 6 rows with false values and 2 rows with true values. You're supposed to identify the false ones. Let's write down what the false ones are. The false ones come from rows numbered 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 and 8. So what are the corresponding terms? 1 is TFT. TFT is P, conjunction, negation Q and R. Number 2 is negation P, conjunction Q and conjunction R. Number 4 is negation P, negation Q and R. Number 5 is P, conjunction, negation Q, conjunction, negation R. Number 6 is negation P, conjunction Q, conjunction, negation R. And the last row, all 3 are in negation. So when I do a disjunction of all of this, I get the PDNF of the required statement. But I want the PCNF. So how do I write the PCNF? I'll write each of them after flipping. Now when I flip them, I get this. These 6 terms are what will form the required PCNF. These 6 terms which correspond to the terms from the given truth table will form the PCNF. So with that problem, we'll end today's class, where we learned how to find the dual of a given compound formula, and we also understood 2 important forms of any given compound formula. the principal conjunctive normal form and the principal disjunctive normal form. In the next class, we'll have an introduction into the theory of inference, which is actually the practical application of whatever we saw so far in understanding how a computer makes certain decisions based on the inputs given. We'll have a look at them next class.